Good evening, everyone. There's no silver lining to be found in 14,000 lives lost in this country. Only the hope that these will be the worst days we will see. The staggering daily toll of deaths in New York State alone rising to a new high of 779 today. But that, say experts, is a reflection of where we were weeks ago with this virus. Because by other measures, a promising trend is taking form as we also begin to understand the effects of the uneven responses to the pandemic.
Say something now.
Oh, I gotcha.
There we go. There we go.
Nice, man.
Sorry, I've only used Zoom like one or two other times. I actually have a webcam too. I wonder if I can turn this on because I'm using my Yeti microphone. I'm just trying to like make this the best. Hold on, let me see.
I appreciate that.
Is that better? Does that look better at all?
It's different. I don't know. I don't know if it's better or worse. It's different.
I'll just use this one then. It's more straight on anyway.
Yeah. leave it to the guy who's the most into video of my guests so far to like experiment with the two different camera angles.
Well, I like I got like a whole streaming setup because I love video games and I've never been able to put as much time into them as I would want, I think, because like I'm always like doing work or there's always something I should be working on. And whenever I play video games, I'm always in my head like I should be like getting work done. And I'm seeing like all these like Twitch guys and I'm like, man, you know what? I want to start streaming and it just be like a fun like side hustle thing. And if it becomes something, then cool. But especially like in times like this, like everyone's playing video games, especially like all my friends from back home. I'm from North Carolina, so I don't get to see my friends that much that I grew up with. I'm in California now. So yeah, I tried to set up a streaming setup and I got everything set up and I did it a couple times and it felt kind of weird because I'm never kind of on camera, just like this situation is for me. This is my first podcast I've ever done, so I'm pretty excited about that too. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man.
I've been invited to do a couple, but just kind of never lined up. So.
You know, it's funny, man. So I guess like to begin here, first of all, dude, thank you very much for doing this with me.
Of course.
I mean, I've been following your stuff for a while. It's awesome, and I thought you'd be a great guest for a few different reasons. But first of all, dude, that 2019 time lapse reel is fucking dope, dude. It's great.
Thanks.
Like it's really, I can tell you spent a lot of time just shooting it for one thing, just all the hyperlapse stuff that you do and all the like, I don't even know what the term of the week is for like, motion bending or some shit.
Like the zooming?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a name for it, so I don't know.
Yeah. I'm sure someone will come up with something, but yeah, man, it's really cool. And clearly you picked out like some of the very best, just like 2 or 3 seconds, I would assume, of each one of those like minute-long time lapses.
For sure. Time lapsing is like how I started. It's like literally my entry to like the whole industry was like time lapsing when I was in college. So those time lapses have been I've been taking those for the last 8 years, so that's not like a video that I thought of like, a long time ago and was like, I want to show all these time lapses and make a cool reel. That's just something that happens over time. You shoot a ton and then you look back and you're like, dude, I have a shit ton of, can I curse on this?
Oh yeah. Curse away. Okay. Dude, curse. I have a
shit ton of time lapses and I was like, I need to make a cool reel. And that's kind of what came about. So
yeah. Well, it's really awesome, man. I mean, I definitely, I spend a ton of time, creating my own time lapses, and I'm very critical. Like, I mean, the funny thing is on this podcast, you probably think like, man, Adam's so, complimentary to everybody. But the truth is, like, the people that I want to have on the podcast are the ones where I'm like, this guy or this girl does like fucking amazing work. And you know, those are the people where I'm just like, yeah, well, you know, they should be complimented because it's actually really good.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Like
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a while, and yeah, I mean, I watched all the YouTube tutorials that everyone else watched, and I remember the hyperlapse like term like being created.
Right.
I was watching this YouTube video. I think his name was like Griffin or something. He had a big YouTube channel. If you said it, I might know. He's got orange hair.
Okay.
Griffin, I don't know, but he was talking about. He did like a weekly or daily like YouTube video talking about like news in the film industry, and this is in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I was a junior in college,
Yeah.
and I had just bought a 5D Mark III. I was studying film in North Carolina, and I just bought a 5D Mark III. I think I bought like a used one, you know. And I remember him being like, in like one of his like weekly videos, he was like, this new time lapse, these two guys from Italy, they coined the term hyperlapse, and it was like these two wedding videographers in like Italy were doing it for like it was the first time I'd ever seen it, and I was like, what is that? That looks sick, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so DIY, especially for someone like just like starting. I was in college, like I was obviously trying to make my way in anything.
Right.
And it's so DIY, you know what I mean? Like hyperlapsing, you just need a camera. You don't even need a tripod, really.
Right.
You just take a picture, take a picture, step. It's like so DIY that anyone can do it, and the effect you get, like when you show someone, they're always like mind blown, you know?
Right.
And it's like really easy to get like blow someone's mind with like this DIY technique. It was like a no brainer for me when I got started. Like I didn't know, you know, a way in, and like that was my way in. And I don't know if you saw the video I made when I went to Australia. I don't know. It's pretty old.
I probably did. Yeah. Was that one of the like you and one of the like swimwear brands or something, and you
no, this is way before then.
Okay.
This is way before then. Way before any of the swimwear stuff.
Okay.
When I was in college, it's so crazy. I was messaging this, or I wasn't even messaging him. I was just like a fanboy of this dude. His name's Matt Joey's. I don't know if you follow.
Dude, he's coming on the podcast.
He's like my favorite human being.
Oh, dude, he's the OG like hyperlapse guy, except for maybe the Italians that you're talking about. Maybe
100%.
Yeah.
So I remember watching my junior year. This is 2013 as well. I remember watching his time lapse reel and like just fanboying over him, you know. And then the following year, I studied abroad in Australia, which he was like in Sydney or something like that. I think.
Yeah, he was there I think he moved to London now.
To London now.
Yeah.
And now I know him personally. So this whole thing
cool.
this is like one of those stories that it's like, I was just hanging out with him like a month ago.
Right.
Like he landed at LA, and I went and picked him up from his hotel, and like we went and shot around Venice.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the whole time in my head, I was like, this is fucking nuts. Like I used to like fanboy with this guy. And I even told him later, like, hey man, it was super cool, like hanging out, blah, blah, blah. But anyway,
yeah,
that's not even the point of the
story.
story.
Like you mean, what you had to like admit to him, like, hey man, like I've been kind of like, you know, shaking with passion this whole time. I just wanted to let
100%.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I told him what I'm telling you right now, which is when I saw his video in 2013, he was in Australia, and I got an opportunity to study abroad my senior year of college.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Australia. I went to Melbourne. He was in Sydney. And I was going with the intention of making this a time-lapse video to like get me started in my career. It's my second semester, my senior year. This time-lapse video was going to start me when I graduated. I was going to send it to people. Like I had this whole thought process, like how the fuck am I going to make this work? Like how am I going to not sit in a cubicle was like my goal, you know?
And also just like the naivete that creators I think have, that this idea that I'm going to do this and I'm just going to be famous, you know? Like,
it's just going to work, you know? Right. And so I went to Australia, and I studied there for 7 months, and I stayed up, you know, till 3-4 in the morning. My apartment was downtown. So I was just out in the city, probably at times I shouldn't have been, by myself, just shooting like hyperlapses and time lapses and all this stuff. And you can go watch the video later. It doesn't hold up near as well as like new time lapses now, but I was like really in on it. And I was doing like using like the HDR feature on the 5D3.
Right.
I think it was 5D3. You know, which brings which like it compiles the HDR in
Yeah.
the camera, and it
It's like
comes out as a JPEG. It doesn't come out as RAW. So
right.
like I half knew what I was doing in terms of like the hyperlapse technique, but technically what I was doing, I should have shot with RAW, you know, blah
Of
blah blah.
course. Yeah.
So it doesn't maybe hold up as well as it could now, but I made that. I did what I said I was going to do. I went there and I made this video, and I came back home to North Carolina. I spent 2 weeks editing it on a laptop, damn near exploded. And yeah, I made that video, and it like actually got a lot of views. I was like, you know, I don't know. It shit just kind of happens, you know, you don't.
Yeah.
And again, it might be the naivete thing where you just think it's going to work. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does.
Right.
I made that video. I went to sleep and I woke up and it had like 100,000 views on Vimeo, and I was like mind blown.
Right.
And someone on BuzzFeed Australia had posted it on like one of their blogs, which is like what happened.
Yeah, that's
like why
you always need something like that. That's what does it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it maybe gave me like too much confidence or what, but like off that video, I like packed my Honda Civic up and I drove to live in my like family friend's guest house in Phoenix, Arizona. And I sent that video to all the studios in Phoenix, Arizona, and I started shooting time lapses for like commercials in Arizona within like 6 months. I moved out there, and that was 5 or 6 years ago now. That was mid 2014.
Right.
So yes, years ago now. So
whereabouts in Phoenix did you live? Because I lived there for a couple of years a while ago though.
Dude, I love Phoenix. I lived there for 4 years. So I moved out there July of 2014. And I stayed there until July of 2018. How long have I been in LA? I've almost been here for 2 years. So yeah, I was there from July of 2014 to July of 2018. And I lived all over the place. I lived first in Mesa.
Okay.
And then I moved to Gilbert, and then I moved to South Mountain, which I think is technically like Phoenix, and then back to Mesa. So like all around.
Yeah.
I love Arizona.
I lived in Tempe for like a year or two, and then, you know, that's where everyone knows Tempe, and then Scottsdale for like a year as well before I moved back to the East Coast.
Where do you live now?
I live near Philly.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is it over there, Corona wise? Like,
it's I don't know. It's tough to answer, man, because like, you know, depending upon, you know, what you listen to, it's the worst thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, then I see some things that feel like maybe it's starting to improve a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the quarantine situation is probably about the same as what it is for you. I mean, you can't do like anything.
Yeah,
you really can't.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's not. I live probably like 2 hours outside of New York City, so that's obviously like, you know, the epicenter of where everything's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that bad, but I guess over the past few days they've said that like the Philly area is going to start, you know, having like their apex or something.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, I don't totally understand, because, you know, it's not like we're another country from New York City. Like, shouldn't we be apexing at like roughly the same time as New York?
Yeah.
You would think.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, but it is. The whole thing is so weird, man. Like, how are you coping with it?
I was coping with it really bad at the beginning. I had pretty bad anxiety and about the whole thing. I'm kind of a germaphobe,
Really?
and like I was constantly washing my hands, and like I was pretty crazy about that stuff before all this. And then when it all happened, I had like a major spike in my anxiety. And I don't know how personally you really want to get here, but like it was to the point where I had to do something about it. You know, like I don't feel like I'm that much of an anxious person, but I went to the doctor. I went to Kaiser. I have a Kaiser membership or whatever. And I went and sat down with the psychiatrist. And this is like right as Corona was like popping off. so things were still open and it wasn't that crazy, like far-fetched to like go do something. Like
Right.
LA wasn't on lockdown or anything like that. So I went to like sit down with a psychiatrist and like tell him what, and it was essentially like a therapy session. I didn't know this going in. Like I thought I was just going to tell a doctor what was going on. But then they started asking me all these questions about like my childhood and all this stuff. And they pretty much told me that like, I'm like an anxious person, like my whole life. And I'm like thinking back, and I always had like exam day anxiety, like when I was in college, like before like big tests or whatever like that. But I
Right.
thought like everyone had that. Like
Right.
I thought like when I was walking to class, like feeling like I was going to be sick. So I was so nervous about taking this big ass test. It was such a big chunk of my grade. Like I thought that was normal. You know, I
Yeah.
thought everyone was dealing with that,
Rational
but it's,
anxiety.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And even like some like exam day anxiety, like before like big shoot days, like where I didn't know anyone on set or anything like that. And it was like a big shoot or whatever. I'd get super anxious and upset my stomach. But I thought everyone was kind of dealing with that. And I went and sat down with a psychiatrist and they were like, you have it more than most people. And I was like, dang, I didn't even realize. So,
Yeah.
I've actually been taking something now that the doctor gave me. It's like an everyday like exam kind of, or not exam, anxiety kind of like baseline relax.
Right.
And I've been doing like really good since then.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
Man.
I know it's like it's one of those instances where, you know, going to the doctor, and I'm not like pro medication or something like that. But I'm doing it and it's like helping a shit ton.
Yeah.
I don't wake up anxious anymore. And like, I would check my phone and just be scrolling through all like the horrible coronavirus news and it would just upset my stomach. And now I don't even look at it. I'm just like staying safe myself. My family's safe. Like both my parents back in North Carolina are safe.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of going day by day here and just focusing on my own stuff. And
yeah. So did they prescribe you with like what, generalized anxiety disorder or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know clinically like what I have. They didn't like tell me, you know, you have this condition or something.
Right.
They like, you're an anxious person. You should try taking this. And
right.
I did, and it's working.
Right. Yeah. I only mention it because oddly enough, my wife is a therapist.
Oh, no way.
So predominantly like she works.
My mom is too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. So were you ever like, hey mom, what the hell? Like, why didn't you?
100%.
Yeah. Why didn't you hook me up?
Well, I don't think my mom can like, you know, prescribe me stuff or something like that.
That could be true.
I obviously call her when I felt a certain kind of way, and she would, you know, she's like she's my mom, you know, she's going to help regardless if she's a therapist or not.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, you know, she, like my wife works with basically like primarily like high school, college, like late 20s, you know, and it's like amazing the amount of people that, you know, on paper you go, there's no reason for these people to have anxiety or depression. Like they're not, they don't necessarily have like a tough upbringing or something like that. And in many cases, it's like, you know, like upper middle class, like, or better, you know what I mean? And it's this weird, I don't know. There's a lot of theories as to why it might be so like, you know, it might be such a high percentage within that demographic. Could be like just the pressure of competition or social media or like, you know, any number of things.
That could be everything. Yeah. I mean, I guess I fall into that category, so I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes I think I do, although I've never been like.
Yeah, I think anxiety and depression kind of go hand in hand. And they were asking me all these like depressing questions. And I was like, no.
Right.
Like every depression question was like a hell no.
Right.
And all the anxiety questions, like loss of appetite and like all this stuff, I was like, yes, you know? So,
right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm not depressed at all.
Right.
Like, if anything, I have like a fear of death that gives me anxiety.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm an anxious person, but again, I feel fine now. I'm not like,
yeah, that's cool. Well, I'm glad.
And I didn't have problems with it really until this whole Corona thing.
Right.
My anxiety, and I would just wake up with anxiety, and I tell my girlfriend, you know, like, I don't know what's going on with me. Like I wake up and it takes me a couple hours to like feel like I'm getting a grip on the day, like I'm moving slow. I'm taking long, hot showers, just trying to like get my mind right and calm down. And
Yeah.
anyway, we're getting deep into it. But.
No, that's cool. And actually, some of the people that I've talked to and am going to talk to are kind of in that like mental health space. I mean, basically, like I happen to be a photographer who loves, photographing other people's work. But truthfully, it's like I'm doing these because I have a ton of time all of a sudden, and B, there's just certain people that I think are interesting, and there's certain ideas that I like to talk about. So, if you want to go like weird and deep and mental health or space or some shit, like I'm on board, dude.
Hold on.
Yeah.
When are you having Matt on? Because I was like, I talk to him so often now. Like we message each other on Instagram, just like nonstop. So when he was here,
I think it's in a week actually.
Okay, cool. When he was here, funny enough, he didn't have a car. He was here for like a conference, and he was shooting someone with like a 360 camera or something like that. And we just like went around and drove around. We even drove down to the Polar Pro. He had like a meeting at Polar Pro, and he was going to Uber there. And I was like, dude, I'll go with you. I'll drive you, we'll go hang out with the guys and whatever. We'll go shoot something. So I drove down there with him, and he introduced me to like all the Polar Pro guys. And I actually sat down to do a podcast. I was with him, with, I think his name's Dave Mays. I don't know if you know.
Don't know.
He does all of like the Polar Pros. I don't know. He's in the Polar Pro studio, and he does all our podcasts and stuff.
Okay.
Like that. Then we went to like Newport Beach, and I took him to the Wedge, like the big surf spot. I don't know if you've heard of it. There's this surf spot in Newport Beach that's like sick. It's
right.
If there's big waves, people going flying, it's just really fun.
Okay.
To watch. So I took him there, and like we just went and shot around, and then he's like super cool guy, and he's super good on podcasts too. So yeah, you're gonna have a good time with him.
I would imagine. Well, he so much of the stuff that he does is like tutorials and vlogs and things.
Yeah, he's super good on camera, so it's like a no-brainer for him.
Good conversationalist. And that, back to the other thing I was saying, like that's kind of the other ingredient is that I go, who do I actually think would like be, cool to talk to? Because there's a lot of, I mean, I don't know if you've ever felt this before, but oftentimes, and it's not so much like hitting people up on like social media or whatever, but a lot of times it's just like running into photographers in person, and it's like there's so many like super anti-social photographers. I don't know what it is. It's like so frequently I'll bump into guys, and it's just kind of this like don't take my spot kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I've experienced that as much as you, but I definitely have in certain situations. I've met some guys that are really big on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and they're kind of short. But for the most part, like honestly, like my come up was mostly due in part to me messaging people like Matt or Jacob Owens is another real big one. He's a video guy, not in the time lapse world, but
I follow him as well.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I could tell you my whole story, and it's almost entirely is thanks to other people.
Right.
Like, that have just like helped me grow essentially. And so yeah, I don't know. I haven't experienced too many a-holes, but
it just used to be my own like, personal meme. It was like, I was just like, oh, here's another one of these guys. Run into people, and it would just be weird or something. But dude,
I actually experienced that more in college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember in college, like, I wasn't like that. Like we would, we had like, I wasn't like I was doing everything in college. I was doing like screenwriting classes, directing classes, DP classes, acting classes. I was just kind of doing everything because I love movies. Like that was really the whole reason I got into this. As like a kid, I was growing up, I love movies. So when I went to school, I studied film, and like camera operating and time lapsing and making videos, kind of that stuff came later. I just knew I wanted to do something in the movie industry.
Right.
And in college, people were crazy competitive. People, I don't know, man. I was never one of those guys. And I always wonder where all those guys in college that were like the dominant, like they get up and they tell everyone what to do. I always wonder where those guys ended up.
Right.
Because I'm like, I wonder if that worked out for them.
Right.
I would like see it in class like everyone else and be like, oh, one of these guys, you know? And yeah, I don't know where they are now.
Yeah. You know, maybe not on the actual film set. Maybe the, you know, producer is more of a role for someone like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But dude, you're definitely you're making me feel great about this whole idea of like you sort of kind of, you know, piggybacking among, you know, different people that kind of gave you a hand and stuff. Cause, you know, I feel like I'm certainly in that spot. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know, I'm at the point of just like throwing darts, you know, and frankly, you know, this whole podcast was something that I just sort of put into play like pretty recently. And, you know, you, in my opinion, and there's a few other people that are going to do this where I'm like, dude, I have no business interviewing some of these people, like none.
Dude, I mean, you have the balls to like go through with it. I feel like a lot of people like us have had this idea of doing a podcast because I've wanted to start a podcast, but just never had the balls to like go through with it. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that have the idea that just aren't executing. And if you just execute, like, yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit. You're going to get some big people on here because we want to talk. Like, I don't know. I want to talk. Like, if people like invite me to do a podcast, like I just say yes. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, we have a lot. I feel like everyone's got a lot to say, and right now we're all bored. So,
you know what? See, I think that's what it is because I'll talk to like some of my buddies, and I'll be like, you know, like, dude, you're never gonna guess who's doing the podcast or whatever, and it's like, bro, you got so lucky because all you did was you had to wait till fucking Armageddon, and then people are like, well, Jesus, like, I don't have any commercial gigs, I'm making no money right now. Like, all right, I'll do your stupid podcast, Adam.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So tell me a little bit about about Jacob and kind of how did that maybe like could we pick up from where you know, so you came to Phoenix. So what kind of happened at that point?
I just remember in college, like I wasn't a big partier, you know, like everyone was going out partying and stuff, and I would like take time lapses over this like little bridge like near my house, and like that was just like what I liked. I was so, I think, worried. It seemed like everyone in school was like just worried about partying and like fraternities and sororities and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like super worried with what I was going to do when I graduated. I think I don't know. People maybe just know that they're going to get a job with their resume. They're going to apply for jobs. They're going to get jobs. And I didn't want to do that really, really bad. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I remember I was watching, I don't know if you watch like Inside the Actors Studio videos.
Sometimes, yeah.
I think now they're kind of old. I think rest in peace too. I'm pretty sure that guy James Lipton passed away recently.
Did he really?
But
I didn't.
I think
we'll fact check that one.
Yeah, do it. I'm not sure, but I thought a couple months ago maybe that happened. But anyway, yeah, back when I was in college, those I guess were maybe a little bit more relevant than they are now because that's kind of an older show. But I would watch all these interviews that he would do with these directors or actors or whatever, and it seemed like everyone had this like crazy story, you know, like how they got from being no one to being, you know, like a huge actor or a huge director, Spielberg, and it's like all their stories were so crazy. And I'm just sitting here like in my bed, like in college, like how the hell am I going to get one of these stories? And then kind of like life happens. And like now I'm 27 now. And I look back, I'm like, holy shit, I've got one of those stories.
Right.
Like I didn't even like, you don't plan it. It just like, that's not something you should worry about. Like, that's just life, you know, like stuff just kind of happens. So yeah, I went to Australia, made that time-lapse video. I came back home to North Carolina, and I actually started camera opping or assistant camera opping for this local news station, Channel 9 in Charlotte. And this was an internship I had the previous summer. So it was kind of something I already had lined up. Mm. And I remember, and I love these guys. I don't know if any of those guys are going to ever see this because I don't want to like talk down on them or whatever. That whole situation taught me a crap ton.
Right.
But I do remember one of the producers showing me this like E&G camera and being like, this thing is like, this is one of the best cameras on the planet. And it shoots like 1080i. Like it's just a horrible camera.
Right.
And me just coming from college, I'm kind of a nerd. Like I had a 5D Mark III and I'm in my head, I'm like, my 5D Mark III is better.
Yeah. My camera is better already.
it's kind of like the older generation's like way of thinking just wasn't on the same wavelength as my super nerd self.
Right.
Like just doing this like time lapse video and maybe feeling like I'm cooler than I am, but it wasn't for me. And right at the same time, I had a family friend call me. He lived in Phoenix. He's in the golf world. My dad is in the golf world. So, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Man, I'm working as a assistant camera op for this Channel 9 news, blah, blah, blah." And he was like, "Why don't you just come out here?" And he's like one of these idea guys. He's like always doing something else. He was talking about starting an app company and making videos to make apps and all this stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in, man."
Right.
So like that was when I quit that job. I packed up my Honda Civic and I drove to Phoenix. I lived with him. The whole app thing, of course, bombed.
Right.
Didn't do well at all.
By the way, quick side note, how is it that every single like film person that's like in their 20s is like, so I took my Honda Civic and I just like every single person on earth is like a Honda Civic and like that's the vehicle.
Hey, I mean, it was a cheap car. It got me from A to B. I love that car. But yeah, I owe that thing my life. It was so cheap and it got me everywhere. I drove cross country with that thing. I drove to like Ohio with it. I drove to Florida with it from North Carolina. I drove to Phoenix with it, California from Phoenix and back. Like I drove that thing everywhere and it never gave me any problems. So rest in peace, that Honda Civic.
Right.
But anyways, so I got out to Phoenix. I was there for 4 years. Right when I got there, I sent a time-lapse video to everyone. I was PAing on some sets, like some cool sets at the beginning, like for the Phoenix Suns, for this studio called True Story. True Story is in Phoenix. And they do like a lot of the bigger sports stuff.
Cool.
And I owe them a lot too. I mean, I could go in way harder on them. The head of that studio is like one of my mentors, especially the first couple of years when I was in Phoenix. And anyway, so this is around the time where like Sam Colder was starting to blow up, which is kind of like a threshold for all the videographers in the world, really, because like no one was like really that cool, being a videographer until like he came around.
Yeah, it used to be kind of the nerd job for a long time.
Yeah, and so Sam Colder was kind of blowing up. And I was just, what was I doing in Phoenix? I mean, I was just shooting. I was PAing on sets a lot. I was taking like road trips to like Sedona, taking pictures, doing time lapses around Arizona, things like that.
Sedona,
and I think at this point, I was growing my following was maybe up a little bit. I don't know the number. It could have been maybe like around like 20,000 or like 15,000, somewhere around there. Just to the point where like I could start DMing people or brands and they would respond.
Right.
And I remember talking to Jacob Owens, who he also lived in Phoenix at the time. I think he was a lot of the times in LA, like working a lot there.
Yeah.
But Jacob had this, kind of this circle in Phoenix. That I didn't even know existed when I was in Phoenix. It wasn't until I started becoming friends with him and like we started doing stuff. But it's kind of a funny story. We had been messaging back and forth on Instagram for maybe a year, like just like, hey, what camera was it shot with, stuff like that.
Right.
Like nothing too crazy.
Right.
And he posted an Instagram story. This is I've been in Phoenix maybe a year at this point. He posted an Instagram story and was like, hey, I'm going to visit my brother in Hawaii, like in a couple days, like anyone else out on the Big Island or something like that, And I DM'd him back and was like, let me come with you. And it was almost like a joke, but like, not really, you know?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
And he messaged me back and was like, he sent me like his flight info. And I hopped online and I bought a plane ticket. Like, and it seems a little crazier telling it as a story than what it felt like. I don't know why that is, but
had you ever met him like face to face at that point?
Never.
Okay, so there you go. That's what it is.
I don't know why. I don't know. It seems like a stupid idea when I tell you on this podcast. Right. But like when I lived it, it didn't seem that scary or like weird. I don't know. It didn't feel weird.
Yeah.
But I met Jacob when he picked me up from the airport on the Big Island in Hawaii.
Right.
He came to pick me up. I shook his hand, was like, "What's up, bro? Like, this is sick. This is crazy." You know, like, and going to Hawaii was like the cool thing at the time again, because the whole Sam Colder stuff was starting to blow up, and he was shooting stuff on Hawaii, and you know, whatever.
Right.
I hate to like, you know, piggyback off of him, but
Dude,
like
understand.
everyone did, and it's like, I mean, he's the GOAT. I mean, he's the GOAT. What do you want from me? He's the fucking GOAT.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went to Hawaii and we shot videos like every day, all day. I slept on the ground. I slept on like this little like inch pad that his brother had. He had this like no air conditioned apartment in Hawaii. I slept on the ground for a week just to like chill with him and his brother, and we just like explored Hawaii and like shot cool videos. And I came back and made another kind of, you know, Sam Colder crazy edit with way too much masking and all this shit.
Right.
And yeah, that was just like another video I had made. I posted on YouTube and my Instagram and things like that. And yeah, I started hanging out with Jacob Moore in Arizona and stuff like that. And he introduced me to his friend group that he had out there, and I was hanging out with them a bunch. What else? I mean, I know the next step was me getting invited to go shoot this Coachella video for this girl named Evelina.
I think I remember that, actually. That might have been right around the time that I started following you. I don't remember, because I do remember that, and I remember thinking like, yeah, wasn't it like a hyperlapse where you're going through the crowd or something at Coachella? Was it?
It was definitely all video. Like I might have thrown like 1 or 2 time lapses in there, but at this point, this whole time lapse thing is just as on the side.
Okay.
Like I'm kind of holding on by the seat of my pants. I'm shooting a lot of videos at this point. And time lapsing is just like a skill I have, you know, like I was doing that stuff for some studios in Arizona and stuff like that, but I was like all in on video.
Okay.
And that's kind of how it is for me right now. Like I'm more of a video guy. Like I love shooting videos and things like that. And time lapses are more just like a skill, like something that I can do by myself. Like it's really, really easy for me to just to like go out and shoot a time lapse, you know? I mean, like if I have free time, I'm just gonna go shoot some time lapses.
That, you know, sometimes I wonder, like maybe the people that are really kind of video oriented are that are also good at shooting time lapses. Maybe their time lapses have that like little extra bit of polish, because it's like you're thinking like you're shooting a video. You just happen to kind of do this trick, which involves taking stills.
100%. When I'm shooting time lapses, I think of it as videos. I don't really think of it as photos, even though I am taking a shit ton of photos.
Right.
I don't know. I think of it more as a video.
Just this 8K video that you have yet to sort of create.
100%. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I remember when I got so this influencer off Instagram hits me up. Her name's Evelina, and she had like over 1 million on YouTube and like 700K on Instagram or something. Actually, I think more, like 900K on Instagram. And it was big for me. Like she had seen, I think, the Hawaii video that I had just made with Jacob. And this is like one of those things where you look back, you're like, how can I have one of these come up stories? Like you can't plan this stuff, man.
Right.
You shoot, put stuff out, and then that'll lead you to something else. And then that'll lead you to something else. That'll lead to something else. And it just keeps going. And then all of a sudden you're freelancing and you're making a living. So
did it feel like, you know, thinking back to you know, the parts where you can now kind of define as the start and the middle and the finish of that story, could you feel that ever? Were there ever moments when you were doing that where you're like, this is part of this thing that I'll inevitably, you know, one day be able to kind of look back at? Like, did you ever feel like, oh, I'm in that moment right now? Or was it always just too fast?
I felt it. I don't know about other people, but for me, I think I live in my head maybe more than other people do, but in my head, I was like, don't fuck this up, because I've never had an experience like this, and I want to make a cool video, and I want this to lead to something else. So I very much was like self-aware, and you know, that came with the nerves and everything. But as soon as you like start shooting and you kind of get in that mode, you know, you even out and you kind of hone in.
Right.
So I drove to Coachella. I'd never even been to Coachella. I drove to Coachella and shot this. Day one, I show up at this like gnarly house party. with like Brody Jenner and like all these like big,
Yeah.
semi celebrities or
Right.
whatever. And I'm just like shooting everything, Emily Ratajkowski was there and like some other like big
Oh, shit.
people, and I'm just like shooting everything and just trying to make this like cool video. And that's what I did. So I was there for like 2.5 days and I was up for forever and stayed up, she had given me like a hotel like a couple miles away and I had driven out there. So I had my car, but I ended up just like crashing on the couch like one of the nights. And then like I made it to the hotel like one time by like 4 a.m, slept until like noon and then would come back and like just do the whole thing over again. It was crazy, but I was like all in work mode. Like
Right.
it was fun. It was fun, but I was in like work mode. I was like, I'm going to make the sickest fucking video I've ever made.
Right.
Anyway, so that's what I did. I shot that. Then I came home. I edited that video. She posted it on her YouTube channel. Has like 400,000 views, and like everyone seemed to love it. I loved it. I thought it came out really cool, and it had like some kind of Sam Coulter masking kind of zoomy shit, But yeah, it's one of those videos, and it did really well.
And what was the actual like purpose of that? Like she asked you to do that to just sort of promote her like brand or whatever. There wasn't like a specific thing in mind.
Oh, you know what? It was actually sponsored by Dole.
Okay.
Dole, like the fucking pineapple or
oh really?
peaches.
Yeah, Dole.
Dole,
yeah. I think it's pineapple. Yeah.
Pineapples, yeah. So
Like,
I just
cut up ones in the
but it had like 3 shots that had anything to do with fucking Dole. Like one of the Dole shots was like one of the party pool balloons, like
was a
a
pineapple.
pool was like a Dole. My dog just came in here. We have we're fostering a foster bulldog. Here,
oh, that's cool. Well, fostering for extra time now, I guess, right?
Well, actually, we only have him for a couple more days, but here he is.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy. All right.
What's his name?
His name's Wally. Wally, get back in there, bub. Yeah, we're fostering. Yeah, I'm in like my full sweats gear, but
Hey, dude, I'm
full quarantine look.
I was telling my buddy the other day who's on the podcast. I'm like, he was like, so like, what do you do? And I was like, I'm a professional sweatpants wearer. That's just
yeah, at the moment
these days.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fostering a bulldog through Road Dogs. I don't know, Road Dogs. They have like a big Instagram, but they're like a Southern California like bulldog rescue.
That's cool, man.
So we have him for a couple more days, and then he's going to his forever home. We love him to death. I hate having to give him away, but the way it is in our apartment, it's like not enough space for him, honestly. So.
Yeah, that's hard. I've never fostered an animal before, but I imagine that must be kind of a, you never can't help who you fall in love with,
It's our first time, and like you will fall in love with the dog that you get, like 100%. But I think that me and my girlfriend kind of both understand that, like, I think right now is probably not the best time for us to have a dog full time. It's a lot of responsibility. And living in an apartment, we're like we're up high in an apartment, so going down and taking him out all the time can be a pain in the ass.
Passing by a ton of people, and each time you do it, probably, right?
The dog just came back in.
I see him.
I'm just gonna let him. It's all good, baby. You can just let him. He can stay in here.
Yeah, and you have to constantly go by people every time you leave and come back in, and
it sucks because that's another thing is like we constantly have to go up and down this freaking elevator, and that's scary. Like there's no airflow in those elevators, during this whole quarantine time, and we have to take them out 4 or 5 times a day.
Yeah.
So like I'm wearing a mask or whatever.
Is everyone wearing masks there? Would you say like most people?
I would say most people. And it wasn't that way until about a week ago. There was probably like 20 to 30% wore masks up until about a week ago. And now it seems like 90%.
Yeah.
If not,
same.
Yeah. And when you see someone without a mask, you're like, that person needs a mask.
I know. I know. Isn't it funny? Like how, dude, it's like, tell yourself like 6 months ago, be like, hey, by the way, like past version of myself, in 6 months, you're gonna be wearing masks, and if you see somebody without a mask, you're gonna sort of like shame them. You're gonna be like, hey, how about this fucking guy? You know what I mean?
What a world.
It's so bananas how
I
quickly
know.
things change.
It's scary, honestly. Like that stuff scares me. You should see this dog. He's in my girlfriend's drawer of pants. Hold on. He needs someone to keep an eye on him at 24/7 because he's a crazy dog.
Oh yeah, is he a little mischievous? He go for the toilet
He's
paper?
He's a little mischievous. He's not too bad, honestly.
Does he go for the toilet paper?
No, thankfully.
Yeah, that stuff.
That would not be good.
No, that's gold right now.
Limited supply. Yeah, that's gold, baby.
What a flex that would be to have your dog just rip up a bunch of toilet paper.
Yeah.
So
where
by the
were
way,
we?
actually, one of the things that I've been doing is I have to ask every guest, like, what is their current toilet paper situation? Because of course, who the hell knows how to get any of it. So what is your toilet paper situation?
It's funny. I just heard. I was listening to this podcast the other day talking about this whole toilet paper thing and how funny it is. That I think most people's toilet paper usage is gone up because they're always home now, you know?
Right.
So like
That's
if you
true.
use the bathroom at work, or if you use the bathroom at a restaurant or wherever in your daily lives, like if you went to the bathroom, you use toilet paper in other places, but now everyone's using their toilet paper at home. So everyone's toilet paper usage is going up.
That's a very good point.
But me and my girlfriend, honestly, we work from home. So our toilet paper usage is still the same.
Right.
But we were lucky enough. We had to go to the grocery store like a week or two ago. It was like 2 weeks ago now. And we were all masked up and everything.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking in, someone's walking out with this big old thing of toilet paper. And I was like, yo, they had toilet paper here. And I asked the guy, I was like, where'd you get that toilet paper? And he was like, you've got to ask. They're keeping it in the back. Like they weren't even putting it on the shelves anymore. And they weren't even telling people that they had it in the back. So I went to one of the employees and was like, hey, y'all have any toilet paper? And she was like, let me go check. And she brought me out a big one. So we're good. Honestly, like we got super lucky. We have probably like 15 rolls and they're like the big ones. So
15. like the double rolls.
Yeah. Or like the triple rolls. They're huge.
Yeah.
They barely even fit on the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like a bomb shelter's worth of toilet paper right there.
Yeah. Let me know if you hear this like gnawing sound because he's chewing on a bone over here.
I can't.
Okay.
Doesn't bother me. So anyway, so I'm trying to think where so you did like the house party and then you did Coachella and was that like do you think which one of these or has it maybe it hasn't arrived yet, you haven't gotten to this part of the story, but like are one of these moments the moment where you're just like, all right, like now I'm doing something right, like now I'm really like this was like when
I'd say it was that one.
A little arrogant, you know, like when does that take place?
The arrogance is yet to come for sure. I definitely was still like wondering how this whole thing was going to play out. I think when I first moved to Phoenix, my whole goal, I think, was to get to LA. It was just somewhere where I thought that's where I wanted to live. And that's where I needed to be for the work.
Yeah.
So when I moved to Phoenix, I kind of knew it was a stepping stone. So even when I was in Phoenix, those 4 years, 2 years in, I was like, my lease was up. I was like, can I make the jump to LA? Can I do it? I don't think I have the money. I'm going to do one more year in Phoenix. Then 3 years in Phoenix, I was like, I got the money. Should I do it? I don't know, man. Rent in LA is crazy.
Right.
Yeah, I should do one more year in Phoenix and then I'll move to LA. And then at the end of the fourth year, I would say in between that like third and fourth year, my work had really picked up and I was driving to LA a bunch for work.
Okay.
So I already had clients and I already had stuff in LA. I would say when I made the jump to LA, it was like, okay, now I think I'm here to stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So you were like, there was a decent enough percentage of work there that it was like, why do I have to drive I can't remember how far, like 4 hours.
I definitely still had more work in Phoenix, but I wanted to be in LA.
Uh-huh.
I could, after 4 years in Phoenix and working there, I could kind of see the peak of the mountain. Like I was like, okay, if I stay in Phoenix in 5 years, I'm going to be here. And I could kind of see my life playing out like in Phoenix. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that. And that wasn't the game plan from the get-go anyway. So it wasn't really an option anyway, as just something that I noticed when I was there. I didn't like, and I think I wanted to be here, or at least try, like at least go to LA for a couple years, see how it plays out. And then if it's not something that I like, at least I tried,
Right.
But the rent is crazy. Like my expenses are nuts.
Yeah.
They're crazy. We were Airbnb when we were in Phoenix too. And like our rent was nothing. And we were living in a huge house with a pool, ping pong table downstairs. And like, now I'm in a 2-bedroom.
In like Gilbert too. This is a lot cheaper out there in Gilbert, I think, is from what I remember.
Man. I mean, so cheap. You only have one in my rent now, and we have 3 people in a 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
Me and my girlfriend have the master, and we have a 3rd roommate, which is someone who came with me from Phoenix. He's awesome. I've been roommates with him for a long time. He moved with us to LA.
Cool.
But yeah, I made that video for Evelina, and then from there I made a bunch of videos with her. I went with her to EDC. We shot a video at EDC, which is really cool. And then this is around the same time this like whole influencer kind of marketing thing was picking up, and I started getting invited to those. I got invited to go. My first like big trip was the Maldives with this company called Vamped.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay Hepner and Robert Graham. They were the heads of Vamped.
Right.
And,
yeah, I think I may follow. I've certainly heard of them. Yeah, probably through stuff that you posted more than likely.
Yeah. So they invited me to go on like an influencer trip, which is essentially they get brands on board, 4 or 5 brands. And they say, hey, we're doing a trip to the Maldives with all of these influencers. Would you want to sponsor this trip? And we'll take pictures and we'll create content for you on this trip, for your brand on this trip. And then we'll give you all this content to use on your socials, and we'll even tag you on these influencers' Instagram pages. It's kind of good for everyone involved. And there's not much money in it for the girls or the influencers,
Right.
Girls or guys. There's not that much money in it for me. It's really just cool. It's fun. It's free food, free travel.
Right.
It's obviously I can make a cool video out of it, and I can do with, what I want with that to maybe get me, more gigs or whatever.
Yeah.
So I started going on a lot of those trips
too, right? Lot of
connections too. And I would say that they led me to some connections and stuff like that. It definitely grew my Instagram following, being around all of the influencers and stuff. So I was going on a bunch of those trips. I probably did like 3 or 4 a year for 2 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It might not seem like a lot, but when I was doing it seemed like every other month I was getting invited to go to like somewhere cool. And again, I wasn't making that much money doing it, and it would take a week, of work.
Yeah.
And I'd get home and it would take another week, maybe sometimes longer, depending on how gnarly your computer is. And mine wasn't that gnarly,
Right.
To edit. So it takes a lot of time. It's not that much money. So long-term, it's not a good idea. It's long-term, it's not going to work. And it worked for me when I was in Phoenix because my expenses were so low,
Right.
rent was low and all that stuff was real low. Now in LA, I'm doing less of those. And if I do them, my price has to be a little high. It has to be higher than it was then. So I don't get to do many of those trips anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely helped me in like my come up, I guess, on social media and just getting better at making videos, like
Totally.
you gotta make videos to get better, and also working with influencers / models, like I feel like I skipped this. I didn't, when I was in college, like I wasn't shooting with people who didn't know how to model, like I just like immediately made this like leap into shooting people who get shot
Right.
for their careers, like their lives. And it was a lot less pressure on me because they knew what the hell they were doing, and they make me look good.
Right.
And it's like I somehow missed this whole market of working with people who weren't amazing, you know? And that's just another one of those things that like really helped me in my career. I just always shot with people who had been shooting their whole freaking lives, or, you know, most of their lives. So it made me look good, you know?
Right. And to your point about, you know, maybe not that much money, it's like, you know, if that gives you, you know, like tens of thousands of additional followers, like what does that, I know it's hard to quantify, but like what does that equate to in 6 months in terms of like other brands offering you whatever to go shoot something, you know?
For sure. Yeah. And in my experience, and also working with people with big followings, there's only so much money in having big followings. If you work for it, like having a big following doesn't just give you money.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, like there's people with a big fucking followings who are not making that much money.
Yeah.
And you think that they're millionaires and they're not. It's kind of like what you do with the following, you know?
Sure.
You've gotta sell yourself. You've got to make LUTs or whatever it is. You got to sell products and things like that. And that could give you, you know, that can make you money. But even brands, it seems like when I was doing all this stuff, a lot of brands were funneling money into social media marketing, and these influencers were making a lot of money from these brands. It seems like that's kind of cooled off, and it could possibly be the quarantine as well. Like
probably
a lot of brands are I think are toning back how much money they're spending on marketing right now just because this whole Corona thing. But
right.
It did feel like before the Corona thing that less money was being pumped into, also, there's just so many influencers now. There's just so much competition. Say, you know, an influencer like myself will say, you know, like, I'm not going to post on my page for less than this number.
Right.
And the brand is like, well, we can get someone with less following, you know, to do 2 posts, you know, and they'll do it for less money, you know, because there's so many people who are coming up who want to be like influencers. So like everyone's kind of undercutting everyone.
Right.
And everyone at the top is suffering, and everyone's kind of suffering. So chasing the following number, I think can be dangerous if you think it's going to bring you millions and millions of dollars. I think you can make plenty of money with having a solid following, you know, but being more entrepreneurial than, you know, some of these big followers.
And of course, having the you know, good content as well. Like I'm sure that any good, you know, marketer is going to have some sort of a system in which they're kind of weighing, you know, sort of like, okay, well, this person has X amount, that's going to give us this much reach. However, this person that has half of that amount, like, damn, like, you know, they make great stuff, or, you know, whatever the case may be. I also wonder, like, you know, in addition to what you were saying about kind of the competition there, is it possible that like this sort of the fact that it's become a bit cliche, like is it just kind of, you know how like trends are so cyclical and they always seem to kind of live and die and then eventually it becomes something else? And I wonder if, like, you know, as people, like just the average, you know, person scrolling or whatever is sort of more and more aware of like trends, and they sort of know what to expect, and they kind of, you know, you just get inundated with a certain type of shit. You know, do smart companies maybe start like deviating away from that strategy just because they're like, this feels like
cliche
idea, it feels cliche? Yeah.
I don't have an answer for you. I do think it's likely. I think it's likely because it almost feels that way to me. Like sometimes, you know, how I was mentioning earlier, you know, when Sam Colder was blowing up and everyone was making these like Sam Colder like lookalike videos, it felt like the thing to do then. And now I look back at it and I'm like, dude, like be your own person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's a cliche, like you're saying. So it's definitely possible that brands are looking at social media marketing in that way more now than ever. But I mean, it's still work. You know, my girlfriend's works this way. She has contracts and stuff like that, and she's making money. And it's not like it's completely gone away or something like that, where everyone's just like suffering. There's no money to be made and having a following anymore.
No, of course not.
Yeah, like everything's fine. I just think, yeah, it's definitely possible though that some brands are steering away from it more now than back then, but there's still so many brands that are in the industry that I don't think it's causing that much of a problem yet.
Right.
You know,
So how is it being quarantined together? Is it like, because I imagine does it suck or is it fine?
it's the same. Yeah. I mean, I lived with her. We lived together for 2 years now.
Okay.
So, yeah, no.
I just asked because so the other day I was talking to my friend who's a therapist, friend of my wife, I guess. But she's a therapist, and it was like I had to get into all the psychology behind like being quarantined. It's just like what there's all kinds of weird like primordial stuff that you can get into about like, well, what happens like when you get quarantined for a while, and I was telling her about my buddy. He's very he's very autonomous. He's very like he needs his freedom and he doesn't want to get too involved. But he met this girl and they get along, and obviously the next step is moving in, and she's kind of the same way, very like independent. And so I think for a while they were very like reluctant to move in because it's almost like, hey, we've got a good thing going, like let's not risk potentially screwing it up, because sometimes that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, they moved in together in Brooklyn like a month ago. And it's like,
oh, Brooklyn, geez.
Yeah. So like they moved in, and and what, like 5 days later, they're like, oh, all that like freedom you guys want, don't leave the house.
Yeah.
And maybe don't have enough toilet paper, and
just mesh.
Yes. Exactly. And it was
That's
like,
funny.
and so I was telling her about that, and she was, she just thought that was hilarious, because it's like, yeah, a lot of relationships, like you're going to be able to, like, some of them are going to be great right now. Some of them people are going to be like, wow, I really grew to appreciate my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my spouse, whatever.
Yeah.
And like other people are going to kind of have that wake up call, like, oh man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I live by myself I mean, I had roommates and stuff, but I didn't live with a girlfriend up until 2 years ago. And at the time, it was a really big deal. Like, we talked about it for a really long time, and for us, it was an interesting situation because I was in Phoenix, wanting to move to LA, and she was in Florida. So we were doing long distance. We dated long distance for months.
That's a long way too.
Yeah. And so she would come to visit me. I would visit her for long periods of time. And she is like, she can kind of be anywhere, she's got to take pictures for brands and stuff like that on social media. So, she didn't have a job that she needed to be at. Actually she was working at a coffee shop, but I think it was easy for her to get time off. Mm-hmm. So it didn't cause that many problems. But so we were doing long distancing for a real long time. My lease was coming up in July, and I was telling her, like, look, I think I'm going to move to LA. And, what are you thinking? And eventually we talked about it, and it's really expensive to move to LA. And we were talking about maybe all three of us, me, her, and my roommate in Phoenix, Tyler, moving to LA, getting a 2-bedroom, and we split a 2-bedroom, all three of us. And it was a big deal for her too, because she's from a small town in Florida, working on the beach. And
yeah,
we decided we did it, so I had never, I mean, we went from long distance to living together. You know what I mean? Like, it was like two opposite ends of the spectrum here. And it worked fine. It worked fine. I mean, you kind of figure it out. There's obviously your life's going to be a little different, Well, I mean, a lot different living with somebody, but you find out quickly if it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But for us, it worked. So yeah, we're doing just fine.
Yeah. I have a similar thing. My wife was from Boston, and I live in Philly. And so we kind of did that, back and forth thing for a while. And it really wasn't, the fear was there. Like, all the cliches are there of just like, oh, Jesus, this is going to be one of these things that's maybe not going to work. Cause you hear it, like, even from your friends and stuff, just like, dude, seriously, like,
yeah, I know,
100%. So,
I'm like a really clean person too, and I was like FaceTime with her, and her room looked like a bomb went off.
Right.
And in my head, I'm like, oh gosh. So yeah, we obviously mesh. She's much cleaner now.
Yeah, that's cool. Does it ever, it's Aspen, right?
Yeah.
Do things ever get like weird with just like her having as many followers as she does, and just like, I don't know, is that ever like weird for you?
Um, no, I don't think. I think by the time I met her, I'd already been hanging. I was obvious. I was around a lot of people with a big following, so
Yeah.
they're people with big followings are like they're the exact. You think that they're gonna be like these different people, but they're not.
Right.
They're literally just like me and you having this conversation. Like
Right.
she's completely normal. And there are some people, especially in LA, I think with big followings that get big heads and they're, they could be a-holes or be super entitled and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But Aspen's like, she literally with like over 1 million followers was working at a coffee shop. You know what I mean? Like she didn't even need the money. She just like wanted to, she was just bored staying at
Had something
home,
to do.
Yeah, just something to do. And so yeah, she's completely cool. It's weird sometimes. You can get into like there's a lot of weird dudes, like a lot of weird guys. Like she gets a lot of
I
weird
think that's
messages.
kind of what I was getting at. Is I feel like from a boyfriend perspective, there'd be some occasional moments where you'd be like, what the fuck, or like
Dude, you have no idea. Like the celebrities that slide in her DMs,
people
like
that
100%
Wow.
shows that I watch. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
and it's like, dude, I fucking look. My dog's just like finding doors.
Snooping around.
I know. Yeah, I mean, for sure, like celebrities and stuff like that will slide in her DMs and all that stuff. But she doesn't respond to any of them, and maybe it affected me more at the beginning. Like you feel like maybe a little I don't know what word that is, just like a little self-conscious, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, like, she could leave me for whoever, or whenever, and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't know; those kind of worries kind of go away, and they have to. You don't want to live like that.
No.
Like you'll be
No.
miserable.
Yeah.
Um,
And the cooler you are with it, I'm sure the more like women are gonna, they're kind of gonna, oh wow, he's totally fine with this. Like that's an attractive feature.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, you've got to let that go and just trust that they're not responding to those people and talking to those people behind your back. I mean, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
But yeah, I trust her fully now. And then maybe at the beginning it was not that easy. Like I couldn't say I couldn't say that at the beginning. Because that is scary, like constantly having people message her and all this stuff. But it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah.
Straight up, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
If she's gonna leave me for whatever, then I mean,
That's true. Not a whole lot you can really do about it, I guess.
yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Cool, man. So I guess like, do you have a favorite shoot that you've done, or a favorite kind of moment that you had where you're like, man, I've really.
I gotta stop you for 1 second. My dog is getting in the shit. He had a light bulb in his mouth from my closet. I was like, oh, that's not good. Sorry.
If I ever decide to make like a little short intro to these things, for your episode, I'm gonna have you kind of like boogie footing from the
Yeah.
over from the bathroom into the
my dog just flocking him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, like it seems like the best spot I would say to be is the one where you're happy, like you're happy enough, but you're still like unhappy enough to be ambitious. You know what I mean? Like I'm still not,
100%. And that's definitely how I'm living right now, and that's how I've always lived since day one. I don't know that that's ever going to change. If you're ever expecting just to like wake up and be like, oh, just like with a big grin on your face, and
Right.
you're like, I'm as happy as I can be, and everything's perfect.
Right.
Then that's never going to happen. Like that's just not. At least it hasn't happened to me yet. I'm definitely still like learning how to make more, how to make more money off my business, how to get more gigs, get more clients, how to get better at skills. Yeah, I mean everything's still on like a growth scale. Like nothing has gotten super stable. Like I'm still constantly learning. Like I've been teaching and I've always been this way. Like even when I remember making Instagram posts talking about, I was only doing in the whole video thing, and then I'd post time lapses, and then I started posting a lot of portraits with my girlfriend because that was just what was going on in my life. Like when she moved here with me, I started taking a lot of portraits, and I was like, this is fun, and like I was making a little bit of money off of it too, and so yeah, I mean, I've always felt like I was a kind of a jack of all trades, which I think can be a bad thing. Like you might want to just like hone in on one thing, whether that's time lapses or whatever, and follow that track all the way to the end of your career and like just be really, really good at that. But I don't know. I've always kind of like having my hand in all the baskets, and maybe that's even held me back a little bit just from not like honing in on that one thing. But
I think that's a great question, man. And I flirt with that all the time. It's like, because, on one hand, to your point, like, can you ever really become a master of something if you're sort of keeping a lot of different options open and you kind of go, well, in order for me to excel at this, I need like whatever, these type of lights or something. But if I get those type of lights, it means that I can't get this other piece of gear that I need to shoot that type of thing over there. And it's like, I'm kind of in this period where I'm kind of shooting some like real estate stuff.
I'm in the same, I've shooting some real estate stuff here too.
Yeah. And it's just weird because it's like, I see some people's real estate shots and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, it's way better than mine, and like, but it's like, maybe I can do a little bit better than they can on headshots or whatever.
Yeah.
And I never really know because it's like, it's not like the world goes, Adam, listen, like we're all going to agree on this industry is just going to pay you money and we're going to make it easy for you to just go, okay, cool. I'll just hone that particular craft. Instead, it's like, I don't know, I'm just trying to make money however I can. So I'll just throw my my hat in the ring in like 10 different industries.
I think one thing that I did like mentally, I checked the box of like, I'm going to be doing what I'm doing right now for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I'm not like, in my head, I'm not like, in 5 years, if I'm not making this amount of money in video or time lapses or whatever, then I'm going to go get a job as a lawyer or something.
Right.
Like, I'm not thinking that way. Like, I'm all in on what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm going to take this track to the end, and however that, takes me, then that's what takes me. But I'm committed to doing this, and whatever happens. And that way I'm going to do whatever I want to do, whether that's take portraits or it's take time lapses or shoot videos. Like, I like them all. It's all me camera opping. I'm a camera nerd. And I love shooting in all aspects. Like I like doing all that stuff. So
yeah, and editing clearly as well.
I don't love editing as much.
No. You would rather outsource that if you had to?
Yeah, I think that's probably the first thing that I'll outsource. And I mean that you just opened a whole can of worms there, the editing, because I have a maxed out 2014 iMac. It's what I bought right when I moved to Phoenix. Mm-hmm. I moved there in July, and I bought this thing in December of that year. And it's not that good compared to a maxed out 2014. You look at the 2020 as like, this thing sucks. It maxes out like 32 gigs of RAM.
Right.
So
yeah, that's like
if you're a nerd
practice now.
Yeah, that's bad now. Yeah. So I need to make an editing move here. I think my computer might be holding me back a little bit from turning around projects faster to make more money.
Right.
And I'm in this huge computer debacle. I don't know how.
Oh, dude, me too. What's your debacle?
Okay, so I don't know if I should get this iMac Pro, the gunmetal gray one from 2017, or get this Mac Pro, like the one that's like fully upgradable. They're both mind-bogglingly expensive, but I'm an Apple guy. I don't know if you are. And I'm not going to get off of that. I've thought about it. Believe me, I thought about it. And I've talked to people who have hopped off and gone the PC route. And honestly, half of them tell me that they wish they stayed with Mac. Really? So we don't need to get in the PC versus Mac thing. That's not what this conversation is going to be about. I'm going to stay with Mac. Yeah. I'm just trying to decide which computer to go with.
Right. Well, that doesn't sound like a debacle. That just sounds like a really painful, anxiety-provoking decision.
Yeah, it is. So, yeah, I mean, it's really annoying. Are you a Mac guy or?
I'm actually a PC guy, although I'm not. I have no like disregard for Macs. It's just that I've been a PC guy my whole life.
That's the same with I am with Mac.
Even like when I
Literally,
was, like my dad would like come home and be like, I have this game, and it was just some, like
yeah.
um, Windows 95, game or something, and and it was like, I don't know, I was just used to it, and then like as soon as I would mess around, like in like high school, they would have Macs, and I would always just be like, what, like, ugh, and like I'm just like too stubborn. I can't just, dude, just sit down and spend like a week and just hardcore. It's like, I can't. I'm like way too ADHD for it.
Yeah, I mean, my family computer growing up was a Mac. Like I've always just been with Macs, and there's no doubt on a spec sheet with less money I can get more with a PC.
Right.
I'm not saying in any way that Mac is better than PC in any way. Mac is just
Yeah.
what I've lived with, and so what I'm comfortable with, and the extra money that I'm going to pay, I'm just okay with, and it's, I shouldn't be, it's ridiculous how much they're charging, but I'm not even having that conversation right now.
Right.
I'm just like trying to decide which computer to get.
Yeah.
I can either buy the more expensive, better spec'd iMac Pro
Yeah.
that comes with a monitor, the computer is built in with
Yeah. It's the full like workstation or whatever.
but it's more expensive. Or I can go with this Mac Pro with it, which is just the body, like just there's no monitor or anything. I have to buy a monitor separately.
Yeah.
But it's actually less expensive for me to go that way because I can buy the base model of that, the base specs, because those specs can be upgraded later, and I can upgrade them as I see fit. But the iMac Pro, I can't upgrade later. Can't upgrade RAM. Can't upgrade processor. Anything. I can't upgrade later. So I'd actually have to put more money into that one in order to future-proof it,
Right.
as opposed to buying the Mac Pro, which I can less future-proof because I can upgrade it later.
Well, what can you
But I
do?
also have to buy a monitor with that one, and it's like, I don't know, man.
Well, what else can you take advantage of by getting the cheaper one? Like, is there some other piece of gear that you're kind of like, yeah, but I could get that, and then I could grab, whatever, some cine lens or something that you've had your eye on for a while.
I'm such in this hole because I got a tip. Somebody tipped me. I ain't gonna say who. Somebody tipped me that the 1DX3
Mm-hmm.
was coming out, and they gave me all the specs, and I was like, yo, this thing's gonna be a fucking beast.
Yeah.
I need to sell my 1DX2 before this thing gets announced. So I was shooting on my 1DX2 for years. I love that camera. I sold it, and I have a 5D3
Mm-hmm.
that I could then take photos with, and then I have a Blackmagic 6K that I could do all the videos with.
Right.
And then once this 1DX3 comes out, then I'll get that. It came out. The specs came out. It's obviously crazy.
Yeah.
My buddy who lives right down the street, which I collab with a lot, his name's Jesse. He's France and Jesse on Instagram. They're the ones that do all the swimsuit stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
He lives down the street from me. He got the 1DX3, and I was shooting with him. And it's crazy. It's super, super good. The thing is, it's gnarly expensive.
Yeah.
And it shoots in H.265. That's its 10-bit codec is its H.265. I know from editing Mavic 2 drone footage on my computer, which is H.265, that my computer will explode.
Yeah.
If I get that 1DX3. So I sold my 1DX2 with the intention of getting the 1DX3. I'm now realizing I might need to make a computer move before I even think about a new camera. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with. Also, this whole quarantine thing's happening. Business is going much slower. Like I'm focusing on like making a website and reels and doing stuff like that right now. I'm not actually like going out and like finding more work at the moment.
Right.
And I'm like, gosh, do I drop all this money and get a new computer now? And then I don't know how slow this is. I don't know how slow work's going to be. If it's going to be like this till August or the end of the year.
Yeah. And unfortunately, man, like, you are definitely one of the, types of people where like you may be one of the last, industries to kind of normalize,
Yeah.
And I wish, obviously that's the $1 billion question, is like, what is this even going to look like? And one of the things that I'm kind of worried about is that, on one hand, you could say, okay, well, here's the numbers and this is what the trends look like. And we think that in, I don't know, let's say in like 3 months, we're like normal. And by normal, I mean like people can like work again.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, this is kind of what I've been thinking about, is that the behavior of like buyers and the behavior of demand is still going to be down for a while, because I mean,
100%.
frankly, like, it's not like they're going to be like, okay, it's been 3 months, we think it's okay, and then like everyone's going to want to go to fucking Bonnaroo the next day. Like, people are going to be like, yeah, like, I'm laying low for a while, like I don't want to go out and eat as much. And I just wonder how that's going to affect everything.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday where one of the guys was saying to the other guy, are you going to fly in a plane in 2020? And there was just like long, like silence, know? And I was thinking myself, I was like, damn, am I going to fly a plane this summer? Like even if they all come back, and Corona is thinned out a little bit, but it's not completely gone, which is best case scenario,
right?
For the rest of this year. Am I going to get on a plane? And I'm like, fuck, dude, I don't know. I don't want to. Like, I definitely don't want to. So I think you're right. I think industries are going to take a long time to normalize after this. And I don't know. I'm going to be shooting a lot of real estate videos because like, that's one thing that like is still happening right now somehow. Like people, like real estate's been like claimed as like an essential business or whatever. So I'm still getting hit up to shoot like real estate videos. So out here in LA, at least.
Photographers as well.
You what?
And that applies to the sort of whatever they call it, like, life sustaining business or whatever, like that applies to the photographers of real estate as well.
That's what I was told. I work with a company out here in LA who I just camera up. Like they call me and say, hey, we got a house. Here's the address. Can you shoot it tomorrow at noon? And I'm like, or I'm like, nope, and that's just how it is.
Right.
And they hit me back up and were like, hey, we've been claimed an essential business in the state of, or in LA. So we're going to keep shooting, but we have to wear masks, wear gloves and all this stuff. And when we show up to these houses, they're completely empty, there's a lockbox with a key. So I don't see anybody. I don't want anyone thinking like I'm out here being reckless, like still working, like leaving my apartment. Like I go get in my car, I drive to a house that's completely empty and I shoot. I set up my camera inside my car in my trunk and I shoot the house and I get back in the car and I drive home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't see anybody. And then I come home and I edit it and I make the video. Like I make a lot of videos that I don't post on Instagram and things like that. And that's just like the way it is. Cause I want to promote, I put stuff on social media that I want to make, like that I want people to see. And I think real estate's kind of more of a side hustle for me.
Yeah.
It's just something that always makes money, and in LA, like I got bills, man. Like I got to be making money.
Yeah. It's just not as like visually stimulating as, like a bunch of hot chicks on an island in a crazy gold hour timeline. It's just,
yeah, not as cool. So, but it's funny because now I've done it. So now I've done so much of it that like I need to make like a real estate reel and like maybe just throw up a website with all my real estate stuff. Maybe it gets more money, that becomes a cool side thing, But at this time, I'm doing it just because it's one of the only industries that's still paying.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I wonder if people would shame you if they knew, like, oh, I can't believe you're out there shooting houses, like if that's like one of those things,
This thing gave me anxiety. Like I wouldn't do anything if I didn't feel like I was completely safe doing it. Cause I do not want this Corona thing. Like I'm not one of those people who was out partying in groups of whatever and spring break. Like
on the beach.
No, dude, like I want no part of coronavirus.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do anything if I didn't feel I was being safe. So
do you or does anybody have like some kind of immunocompromised in some way, or is there any person that where you're like, this person I really don't want getting it?
Thankfully, no.
Parents maybe or something.
Obviously, I don't want my parents getting this just because they're in their 60s, and statistically, there's a chance that you won't make it through it if you're in your 60s or whatever, So, but they're both in North Carolina. I haven't seen them since Christmas,
right? So
I had no business, thinking about that. I would never give that to them. I'm never going to go over there if there's a risk. But thankfully my mom is a therapist and she works from home. And so she's literally doing therapy sessions like this.
Yep. Same with my wife, man. It's does she hate it? Because my wife is like, oh, this is so weird.
Yeah. I mean, my mom definitely had never done it before, but my mom is also one of those older people who's like super into what the young people are doing. Like my mom has like 25,000 followers on Instagram.
Really?
Running her bulldog. She's got like a bulldog page.
Okay. That's
my mom's like super on it with like future, like computer tech and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really, I knew she was going to have to do stuff like this with the therapy sessions. And in my head, I'm like, she's going to crush it, and I think she is crushing it. She says that it's weird. She's finding, cause she works, I think, with families and children.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a child, I think FaceTiming like this is a little difficult because when a child comes into her office, she's got toys on the ground. It's easy for her to interact and play with the kids.
Yeah.
But with like this, if a kid checks out, like they're just checked out, So I think the video conferencing can be an issue there. But for the most part, she's real busy and she's staying safe. And my dad's staying safe as well, staying inside. No, I don't know anyone that's compromised. My girlfriend and my roommate, we're both, 26, 27, and we're all healthy. So, but again, we don't want it, like I don't want to get it. There's a likelihood of me getting really sick and having to go to the hospital. Nah, I'm good.
I know, man. Especially like you hear some of these stories about, and granted, I keep in perspective, like this is a very small, portion of the people that get it. But like, it's like for a while it was all, it's older people and, immunocompromised people. And then one day it's like that guy from South Africa who's like an Olympic swimmer who's like just jacked out of his mind, like the most fit like you could possibly be, is like like pneumonia, on a ventilator, dead. And then you hear another one, and you're just like, dude, what the hell? And then what was the thing? It was like, oh, some people lose their sense of taste and smell. And I'm like, what? Like, that's when I start Googling like conspiracy theories, and I'm like, this isn't so nuts, dude.
And I don't know if, I'm sure there's statistics to back up, like if you get pneumonia at a young age, maybe you're more likely to get it when you're older. I don't know. I don't know if there's any long-term effects, I don't know if anyone knows if we get corona now, if we have long-term effects when we're older, but I don't even want to deal with it, like I don't. Also, people are all asymptomatic, there's all these people who don't know if they have it. And I had like a little cough, like for like a day or two, and I thought I was dying, you know what I mean? But then it goes away and I'm like, God, I don't even know. What if that was fucking corona? I don't even know. Like I literally don't even know.
Yeah. And it's like, they're not going to test you if you're not showing like very obvious symptoms.
Yeah. No one's going to test me. I got no business getting tested. And it's like, damn, I don't even know if I even had it. So
yeah,
all I can do is be safe and wait for all this whole thing to chill out. So
be safe, pet the bulldog, and internet memes. There's no shortage of good memes right now.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I definitely have a lot to do though. I mean, I've gotten into investing in the last like month.
Well, it's a crazy time to look into like what the market's doing,
Yeah, it is.
Like there's going to be a lot of, wealthy people that are going to come out of this, and there's going to be a lot of people that come out, crying.
I know. I wish I had more money to invest, honestly, because I'm afraid to put so much into it, just because I need money. I'm thinking about getting a computer and a camera, and I'm such a nerd, dude. Like I always want the new thing, which sucks.
Yeah. The gear acquisition syndrome.
I know. That sucks.
What are the specs on the top end, Mac, that you're looking at?
So if I wanted to get an iMac Pro, which I would want to spec out because I can't upgrade it later.
Yeah. I'm saying, what is the straight up dream machine that's like, all right, I'm going to have gun to my head, I have to do this. Like, what are all those specs?
I want 128 gigs of RAM.
Okay.
I don't give a I mean, the processor, I mean, the base one is an 8-core, and I'm working with a quad-core now. I mean, I think a good, if I can get a 10-core, that'd be sick. Mm-hmm. But It doesn't, the Mac Pro doesn't come with a 10 core. The iMac Pro does, is a whole, thing.
Yeah.
But like a 10 core processor, 120 gigs of RAM. I'm working with like a horrible graphics card right now. So I want like 16 gig, for an Apple only uses Radeon. I don't know.
Right.
and
Yeah. They don't do NVIDIA, right? That's
Yeah, I can't do NVIDIA, which sucks because they're the goats, right? I mean, they make the best graphics cards, don't they?
Ever since I've been playing freaking like Quake, you know what I mean? It was like NVIDIA cards.
Yeah. So like I'll get like a 16 gig Radeon Pro Vega, I think is what it is, which is fucking 10 times the one that I have right now on this thing.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure will be fine. And then, just some SSD storage, 2 terabytes or whatever, would probably be fine.
Right. So you I would imagine have a shit ton of like spare drives laying around, right?
Oh my God, dude, I could show you 10 4 or 5 terabyte hard drives right in front of me.
Yeah. You ever have issues with failures?
I've never had one fail, knock on wood. And I use Seagate drives, which I think a lot of people tell me to stay away from. Most people use like the GeForce drives or WDs or whatever with the rubber casing around them. But I've used Seagate drives from the beginning. Like when I started, I've never had a problem with one. And that's what I've just kept buying. And now I have like, 10 to 12, 4 or 5 terabyte Seagate drives.
Like
none of them ever give me problems.
$100 per drive, something like that, right?
Yeah, $100, dude.
Dude, so I don't know exactly what happened, but what I think is going on, I'm in my own little computer debacle where I just ordered a laptop. It's going to be here tomorrow, so I'm pretty psyched about that. But anyway, my other computer, I think what it was doing, it was like shorting my external drives. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Like the output power is shorting your drives?
Maybe. Like I mean, if this video actually gets any attention, there's going to be a bunch of dudes that are like, you fucking idiot. Like, no idea what this guy's talking about. But so maybe not even shorting it, but like basically corrupting the drive in some way.
Whoa.
And so I had a 4 terabyte Seagate drive, and about, I don't know, maybe like a couple months ago, I noticed it was just starting to act like a little weird. And I just had this, I had this feeling that like something's going to happen with this drive. So I grabbed another 5 terabyte drive, and I just started transferring everything from one to the other. And I got, none of the stuff that was on there was like essential because I had another cloud backup. So it's like, it's fine. But anyway, shortly after I did that, the first drive just kind of stopped working. Like my computer stopped recognizing it. It was like, and of course, it, like whenever any shit like this happens, it's always like 11:30 at night, and I was like, well, fuck, I can't sleep now, so
dang,
so Katie's like, all right, I'm going to bed, and I'm just like, like the glow in my face is, trying to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And
recovery, all the shit.
Yeah. There's all this stuff where I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that, but like, what's this other option? And and I went through just so much shit, and I basically came to the conclusion that it's like, it's dead. It's a dead drive. It's not working.
Damn.
And so anyway, so I used the other drive, and 3 weeks into it, the exact same thing happens. And to the point where when I unplug the drive, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, not the end of the world. It's probably something with my computer. And I put it in somebody else's machine, and then their machine doesn't recognize it either. So it's as if, my computer is just shorting these drives or corrupting them in some way. And so once I lost that other drive, like even just these podcasts like end up being, like a few gigabytes once it's finished. And it's like, now I don't have an external drive at the moment. I've got like 50 gigs left on this laptop. I have no way of transferring anything. So I'm just like, dude, I can't even do these stupid podcasts because like I don't have any space left. So it was just like, all right, I'm done. I'm buying a new computer. And I like, again, on the internet, all hours of the night.
Yeah.
And
well, how old is the computer that you're using that may have been shorting the drives?
It's not that old. I bought it in 2016, I think, 2017.
Is it a beast? Did you spend a lot of money on it?
It's not a beast, but it's decent. I mean, I'm not rolling as hard as you as far as like, production and shoots and that kind of thing. So I probably don't need exactly. Like I'm kind of at the point where it's like, it's not necessarily like my ass if the thing doesn't render on time. It's like it's annoying.
Yeah, it's just annoying.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm
got this.
not working with like the top end, but like, I mean, I still have to spend at least a couple of grand on a PC, which is still pretty, it's still pretty
Yeah.
good for a PC.
Yeah. I got this Blackmagic 6K, which shoots like raw, 6K video. And yeah, that as soon as I got that, my computer just started going slow. Premiere started crashing a lot, and I'm just like, yeah, it's holding me back, which sucks, but it's inevitable, like technology keeps on getting so and so much better. It's like
Right.
a computer that I have right now, spec wise, just it can't hold up, so
Right. When you use that footage, do you have to like edit with a proxy or something? Do you do that?
thankfully, no, I don't. I shot recently with a red helium 8K, and that stuff I did have to proxy, which is fine up until a point. Like you can get your edit done with a proxy, but when it comes to coloring, you can't color a proxy. You know what I mean? So you've got to turn all the proxies off when your timeline, your edit's done, and you've got to color these 8K files, these raw 8K files. And yeah, I mean, that process right there took forever. And it's just like, dude, I can't do this. Like,
Right.
you have to upgrade your computer at that point.
Right. Probably all the more reason to start outsourcing as well. Let somebody else, deal with the nonsense of that.
I know, but it's like, geez, I mean, if I'm outsourcing an edit with an 8K red, like it's got to be a pretty good editor. He's got to know what he's doing, So
yeah,
it's all about. I mean, if I have the time, then I'll edit it, because then I want the money,
Right. I
But
mean, you wouldn't do like any kind of like highlight reel of your stuff or portfolio piece or anything that was like for a big brand. I would assume you would still try to edit that yourself in those instances, right?
100%. No, there's very, very few times that I've actually outsourced the editing. Like 96% of my stuff, apart from a lot of the time lapses I've shot, like I'll shoot the time lapses and then I'll send them to a production house, and then an edit will get made, that I'm not even a part of.
Right.
I'm just the time lapse person. But if I'm shooting the video, like 95% of the time, I'm doing the edit as well.
Yeah. So I guess you would outsource it if it was like, I don't know, like a real estate video or something like that, where it's just like relatively straightforward.
I would love to outsource real estate editing. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's actually in the pipeline. This company that I'm working with is hiring editors. So that actually should be happening this year. Well, hopefully this year, if Corona doesn't, dodge everything up.
Yeah, God willing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it is funny how we just have to do that with like every single thing has a caveat. It's like, oh yeah, and then I'll do it. Of course.
If
yeah.
What are you shooting? Are you shooting a bunch? You doing photos?
Well, I do a lot more still photo stuff than video stuff, and it's funny because I, probably I don't know, like 4 years ago is kind of when I really like started legitimately getting into things, and I didn't really know that much about, like, I didn't go to any kind of film school or anything. It was just sort of like, like I used to play.
You're not missing much.
What's that?
You're not missing much.
Well,
I'm definitely on the like.
I found that some things, some companies that I've talked to or people that I've talked to will kind of, sort of say, well, hey, we're kind of, looking for somebody that has like more of a formal education. You know what I mean?
Wow, I've never experienced that.
Maybe it's more of an LA thing or something, because there's probably just
maybe.
so many people that are good that don't necessarily have as much formal
education. I mean, yeah, probably, because I've never, no one's even ever asked me about went to college.
Yeah.
Let alone what I majored in. You know what I mean? It's like out here, it's like, hey, send me something you've done.
Right.
That's it.
Well, I suppose, I mean, there's just probably so many people are so good in LA. I mean, do you know Emmerich? He's like a time lapser. He used to live in LA for a while.
What's his handle?
I think it's Emmerich Time Lapse.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's like exclusively what he does. It's the only thing that he's really into. Well, actually, I take that back. He does some documentary stuff as well, but I guess he's kind of made more of a name for himself doing time lapses. Yeah, although he did this documentary that got viral. Have you ever heard of the 30-year time lapse guy. Joe is his name.
What was it of?
It's pretty cool, actually. You should check it out. He basically he lives in Weehawken, which is like right across the bridge in New Jersey from Manhattan. And he's got this.
Holy shit! I've seen this.
Yeah, he's got this insane view, and he's been doing a time lapse. It's like I think his interval is like every 30 seconds, and it's already been up for like 8 years or something.
I know. I've seen this. Yeah. I watched an interview with the guy and everything. Is that Emmerich?
Yeah, he was. Well, that's Joe, who's doing the 30-year time lapse, and I think even like CNN interviewed him or something. I don't remember. Yeah. So he got a lot of traction there, but ultimately the thing that really kind of gave him, put eyes on it was that Emmerich did a documentary about it, and then that got to like 3 or 4 million views or something like that.
No way. Maybe I saw that. I'm not sure, but I do know that of that guy in New York. I just don't know what content I saw, whether it was a documentary or what.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. I think he has. I was like the other day, I was like, bro, like, what is your shutter count right now? Because it's like on like a A7S, I think.
I have so many questions. Like,
dude, I think it's like 7 million or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And it's great too, because I was like, bro, like you need to get a sponsorship from Sony, because they declare, it's like 100,000 or whatever, like 200,000 shutter actors. Just like, dude, blows that away.
But he would have to. I just have so many questions about how that's done. Like the power, getting power to it, I guess, isn't that hard of a problem to solve.
Right.
But it being funneled into storage.
Yeah.
Like forever. I have questions about that.
Yeah. Well,
and then also
buys all the drives himself. I mean,
if 30 years, I mean, if you're going for so long, you would eventually want to change the camera, probably, right? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what his plan. I don't think I've ever really asked him about that. I mean, I mean, the thing is, there's really no way of I think making it a smooth. Although you'd know better than me about like kind of mastering and edit, as far as what if I just during my 30-second interval I just yip and just swapped in something else, but it wouldn't look the same.
I mean, I did that yesterday, like taking static time lapses and having to change batteries in the middle of it,
Yeah.
in the middle of a shutter, and that's pretty easy, but
the camera itself.
Yeah, the camera itself. I can't imagine.
That would I feel like there would be this smooth, awesome time lapse, and then this little moment of like, what the fuck was that? Like,
what I really want to know is his actual interval, if it is actually 30 seconds. Because as a time lapser, when you tell me he's taking a photo every 30 seconds, I think that is way too much.
Well, photos. For 30 years. Yeah. But I also think that he's so I think that he can also do like one of the things that he does is he posts like a daily sunrise and a daily sunset, and he's been doing that since the quarantine, which is a cool idea because a lot of people, he gets a lot of engagement from that, and so 30 seconds is still short
those frames enough if you want to get a full sunset sunrise. But if you're going years, I mean, dude, he's storage. I mean, he must have.
Oh man. Yeah.
1,000 terabytes. That's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's like every single time, every single post that he has, he like tags. I don't remember who, I don't want to say the wrong one. I don't remember who he's been using, but like every single post, he's like, hey, like at whatever, like, can you please sponsor me? And I'm like, dude, I don't know how, like he's posted thousands of times. Like, how have they not hit this guy up yet?
I know. That's freaking nuts.
But, anyway, the point of me bringing that up, I'm going on a tangent like I always seem to do. But Emmerich was telling me, because I was asking him, like, what is it about LA? Because he's from France originally, and so he just kind of similar journey as you. But one day he was just like, I'm leaving France and I'm going to LA and I'm going to be a time lapser. It was like, again, with like the naivete, but sometimes it works, Mm-hmm. So he goes to LA and he was, you could tell he's just so passionate about being there, and I was asking him, like, do you suppose that maybe one of the reasons why LA is such a bastion of like successful creative people is because you're so aware of this like complete oversaturation of talent that you just go, dude, everywhere I look, there's at least one person that is better than me, and like I'm going to have to hustle my dick off, if I'm going to keep up.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know that I look at it that way. I think of it's more of like inspiration to me. Like at any one time, right now in LA within a specific amount of square miles radius from me is so much effing talent.
Right.
Like they're just animals, like beasts,
Yeah.
creatively here, you know? And it kind of feels good just to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of competition, no doubt. There's a lot of competition, but there's also a shit ton of work.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much work, man. There's more work than there is competition.
Really?
I mean, yeah,
Well, that
there's
sounds
so
pretty
much
good.
work. There's so much work, man. Like you could just go, make, and also there's so many meetings to be had. Like there's so many people to meet and like bounce ideas off of, like I'll just get coffee with other photographers or video people or time lapsers or YouTubers or whatever. And all of a sudden you'll start working together and you'll make friends. And why's my dog barking at me?
Looking for that light bulb.
Looking for that light bulb. Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, man, there's just a lot of work to be had. You just go to meetings and you'll meet people and all of a sudden you're shooting something for them. There's just so many there's so many brands, dude. So many brands need content and like, I mean, it just feels like it's where all the action is. And when I was in Phoenix, I felt the same way. When I was in Phoenix, which is a big city, millions of people live in Phoenix. You'd think that you could live off of working there forever, and you can, but the type of work that's there is just studio work. It's like if someone needs a video, they're Googling, best studio production houses, and they're getting all the big jobs. They're getting the stuff for the ASU basketball. They're getting the stuff for the Cardinals football and all. They're getting all that stuff, all the big studios. But in LA, it's like videographers are getting fed out here, man. It's like there's so many brands that don't need a big production house. They just need someone to create some good video that can run and gun. And there's a lot of work here, man. So honestly, I haven't felt the competition like affect me like that much. Like if you have clients that you work with, and it's pretty easy to get clients too. You just message people, send emails, and you'll make meetings and you'll meet people and you'll get work. I've told people, I have people hit me up on Instagram all the time, like, they're looking for advice or they want to make a living. And I'm like, if you can just get to LA, you made it. Like, that's all you have to do. If I could literally give you one thing, just move to LA. And if you've got the balls to move across country or whatever, if you've got the balls to like uproot yourself and go to LA, you can make a living off of what you do. 100%. And the rent is crazy and it's going to be stressful and it's going to be scary. But if you can make ends meet and just hustle, like you made it, dude. You freaking made it.
Yeah.
So that's the advice that I give to people all the time. And, no one ever does it because no one's got the balls to do the move.
Yeah. But it's hard, man. It's hard to do that,
100%. It absolutely is hard. It was hard for me and it's going to be hard for everyone after me. And people come here and they live here and they get work and then they leave. Sometimes people don't like LA and there's definitely parts of it that I don't like. It's not necessarily a place that I see myself living, my whole life even maybe, but right now it's the move. There's just too much work to be. Too much work to be had.
Well, dude, I mean, I think that I think when the average person, checks out like your feed, they just go, like you are now the Matt Joes, you know what I mean? Like to a lot of people, and you are that guy where people kind of look at this guy and they go, all right, obviously great content, great time lapse, great editor, blah 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 blah, all that kind of stuff, and then they're like, wait, like he's on an island in the Caribbean with like who again? And just like, wow, like that's awesome, and so you you must have an awareness of just like, yeah, that is kind of bananas that like. That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I gotta say though, it feels a lot less bananas when you're doing it though. It really just feels like work.
Right.
Like whenever I get one of those jobs like now, I'm not like jumping up and down in my apartment.
Right.
I'm just not.
You don't feel like you're that kid in high school that's like, holy shit, man. Like it's different.
No, I'm thinking of, okay, day 1 scout, day 2, I can shoot over here with this person. Like that's what I do. Like I make a game plan, and even when you're there, when you're like flying there, you're looking out the window and it's like, wow, this is really, really pretty. And you're taking photos and on your phone and all that stuff. But as soon as you like land, you go to your room, you get your gear out, you throw stuff on charge, and it's like, it's work mode.
Yeah.
It really is. So yeah, that's all I can really say about it. And you get done with the shoot, and you come home, you edit it just like any other job. And yeah, it really does feel like work. What's that quote? Like, wherever you go, there you are, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Have you
don't
heard
know
that quote? Wherever
the
you go, there you
author
are.
of that quote, but I do know it.
It's very much like that, man. Like you think you're going to be on cloud nine, and like, oh, like that version of me is going to be is much happier, or like living the life, or all that stuff. But it's not really. It doesn't play out that way.
Yeah.
You go, and how you feel right now is how you're going to feel there. I promise you, it's the same thing.
Right.
And if you want to keep getting more of those gigs, you better be on your game when you're getting those jobs. Like you've got to work your butt off. And
yeah, man. Well, it's probably the reason that you keep getting them is because you don't sort of, you're not like drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever. Like when you get there, you're just kind of like, don't fall into that weird mental temptation that I know exists. Like I'm just gonna just do good work.
Yeah, and again, those jobs typically don't pay that much, and I'm sure out there are some big ones that pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I'm not working directly with the brands. That's not what I do. I'm the camera operator. I'm the shooter and editor, and there's a lot more money to be made in who set the whole thing up. Who's directly contacted with the brand, who's directing the whole thing, and the guy who hired me, I'm sure, is making a lot more money off this thing than I am.
Right.
I am hired for my skills and my job, and all those jobs where I'm going to a cool place and I'm shooting, that's my job. Yeah. I'm the camera op. I show up, I shoot, I come back, I edit, and I deliver a video, and I deliver content. That's what I do, and it doesn't pay that much money. So it's a day rate type deal. It's just the same amount of money as I would make if I was in LA.
Right.
And yeah, so it's not like you can do that for, and live off that forever. It's a lot of work, those trips.
Yeah. But what's cool is that you're able to get to the point where you now, kind of have that like sobering, kind of reality about that. 100%. And I think a lot of people, when they sort of look naively at certain things like that, glamorous looking things, is they think, I still have to kind of cross that bridge, and I still have to see it for what it is and do it a few times and then go, okay, I see the reality of it now. It's hard for
they will. You definitely will.
Yeah.
You'll be like on a high for like maybe like the first trip, and you'll put in a lot of work to make sure it's really, really good, that first video you do, whether on a travel gig or something like that. And then the next couple of times it's the same amount of work, but you're definitely like more sober to the fact that like, wow, this is work. This is a lot of work. Like you're in these places on a beach, it's 100 degrees, bouncing off of that sand. You can't even see the back of your camera monitor. You know what I mean? Like you're working as a run and gun guy with like this gear on a Ronin, or a Red on a Movi or whatever. Yeah. I can barely see the monitor. I barely see the monitor. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to get as much as I possibly can, because I know we're going to be on this beach for about an hour and a half. You know what I mean? So, these people, you see the videos and you see, these girls or whatever on a beach, and it's like, it's very pretty, and you're like, wow, I would love to shoot that stuff. But when you're on that, I've got sunscreen all over my face. I'm like melting. It's so hot. I can barely see my monitor. And I know, woe is me right now. I'm just complaining, but I'm just trying to say it feels like work. Like it's work. It's not like,
no, it's very fair, man. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, you're not just like popping champagne and like, you know what I mean?
I was hammered the whole time, dude. There's beautiful women. It was amazing. It's like, no, I was sweating and I'm working my ass off.
100%.
Yeah.
I was sweating. I was working my ass off. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. That's funny, man. Well, dude, thank you again for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
How long was that?
You were great. You gave me a ton of great insight.
Cool. Yeah, man. I got plenty more. We can keep going if you want. Have me on again. We'll do it again.
Dude, I would love to do another one. Let's do another one, and we'll check back in and see kind of like, maybe like a month or two from now, we'll be like, are we still in this same bizarro world where like, you know, you're like, yeah, another damn real estate game. You know?
I know, right? That'd be crazy if like 2 months if we're doing like the same shit. Dude, I'm excited for you to have Matt on. Mention me when you have Matt on, and tell him that I was a fanboy of his.
I will for sure, man. I've got a ton of, like I said before, man, like there are people that I'm interviewing where I'm like, what the, you know, it's like, you'll be like, you know, I'll type up my thing and be like, listen, like you've been an inspiration. I really love the thing that you did with blah, 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 or whatever. And it's like, you know, it's out in the cyberspace and I'm just kind of like, this motherfucker's never going to get back to me, you know? And then like the next day or that night or something, I'll look at it and it's like, you know, like I had, you know, like Michael Shane Bloom.
Oh my God, you got him?
Dude, he's going to do it. Right. You know, like what is going on here?
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
He is like my GOAT. He is like my number one.
He's great, dude. I've been trying to figure out, I keep asking him and I feel like it's probably one of those, like, you know, there's only so much shit you can ask somebody for, like, dude, that's my secret. I'm not, you know.
Yeah.
But like, there's this thing that happens during his like gold to blue hour transitions on his cityscape time lapses where it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the highlights, like the actual, like the windows in the buildings of the city lights, they like transition in this way that is so like not offensive to the eye. And I almost feel like what he's doing is he's taking like the orange and the yellow like luminosity in LR time lapse, and maybe he's like shifting that or something. I like, maybe I'm just totally imagining this.
No, he's got to be doing. That's exactly what he's doing. Have you worked in LR time lapse before?
Oh yeah, I use it an absolute shitload. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna use it here in the next hour because I went and shot this really cool time lapse downtown LA last night, a day to night.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get into it right now. But I mean, yeah, that's got to be what he's doing, right? I mean, he's got to be.
So you think he's like backing off the luminosity and maybe like the saturation and then like increasing it like more slowly? Because a lot of times I notice that right during that transition, especially if I speed it up, it's like 5 seconds to go from bright to dark, is like sometimes, and I'm talking, I've deflickered, I've debirded, you know, all that stupid shit.
It's getting the color temperature right because you want those lights when it's dark to be blue, and they're not that way. They're usually orange.
Yeah, they're orange as fuck. And then but then you go color temperature blue and you're like, this is like obnoxiously blue. And so you desaturate the blue a little bit. But like specifically the city lights, I've always noticed that on a lot of his reels, there's like the transition is just like, wow, like what the hell are you doing? Like why, you know? And it's like,
bro, you have a mission as a podcast interviewer when you get Michael to milk him for everything he's got.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm going to watch that. I'm definitely going to watch that. He's one of those guys when people send me like, who's one of the guys that is an inspiration to you? Shane Blum since day one he is like up there.
I know. I know.
His feed is like, I used to be really, really anal about my Instagram feed and like, you know, color tones. His feed is just like God tier level. Instagram feed.
Yeah, his cityscape stuff is so good.
That's so good, dude. He's unbelievable. Yeah, he's one of the guys. You gotta milk him, bro.
I'll try. I mean, it's like one of those weird things where it's like, you know, I want, you know, it's like I want to walk away from these and be like, I'm cool with this dude now. Like we had a good little thing going. And, you know, so it's like, it's that weird, give you an example. I've got this, he's not like famous or anything, but this band that I used to be like, I don't want to say obsessed because it makes me sound like a weirdo, but like when I was a musician, like I was like full tilt 100%. Like I want to do this more than anything. And even to this day, I still feel like I'm a much more talented musician than I am photographer. Photographer felt more like I had to kind of like, I thought it was kind of cool and I sort of had to learn it. Yeah. But music was one of those things where it's just like, I don't know. I
more natural.
Sort of get it. And anyway, so there's this band called The New Deal, which is like, no one has heard of them. Like they're very small. And they play like live electronic music, and they started doing it in like the early 2000s. And it was just a band, you know, playing live electronic music, no samples, no triggering, nothing, just 100% every sound is from like their fingertips. And
Wow.
and they did it so. There's other bands that do that, but these guys did it like it was unbelievable at how they would be able to improvise and transition into different grooves, and it would just sound like, oh, this could have just been a guy like spinning.
Yeah.
Anyway, so their bass player is like, dude, literally like the biggest inspiration to me, like as far
Legend.
as bass goes. I mean, just this guy is just so good. And I mean, he occupied my brain for like a decade of just
Yeah.
like, is like I would join some new band, and it was just like I was just like, well, how can I just replicate this guy?
Uh-huh.
And so anyway, he agreed to do the podcast because of course I like reached out to him, which is just such a trip for me. It's so like he's not nearly the most like famous or well-known person.
Yeah. But for you, it's like a hero.
Yeah.
Wait, so have you done that one yet or no?
I haven't done it yet. It's next week, I think. I don't remember what day, but anyway, so this weird thing happened where like their first permutation of their band, they had this one drummer, and it's like a really weird story where like the drummer was like just an absolute beast. Like this guy was unreal, and a large portion as to why they had the sound that they had. And so it was like one day he kind of just like quit the band, and of course everyone was super butthurt about it, and they were unhappy. But when like the story sort of came out, it was like, oh, like he's a Scientologist and he like is leaving the band to like work on his Scientology church. And it was like, what? Yeah. And like, and this is also this band, most of their fans are like kind of jam band, sort of fans. So they're very like sort of religion agnostic or atheist. Like they're just not, that's not their thing. And they're, they do a lot of, they smoke a lot of weed, and they drop a lot of acid and stuff. And, that's kind of the lifestyle. So to hear that this guy who's like a lot of people's hero is going off to do that, it just didn't match up. It was very odd.
Didn't make sense.
It was weird. So, and the thing is, the band, I never really felt like they never really had, and maybe I don't know what they were feeling. Maybe they thought it was weird. Maybe they just didn't know how to like address it. But I never felt like there was a moment where they were like, dude, I get how bizarre this is. Like, it's so weird. It sucks. Like, but we're going to find a new drummer and whatever. It was just sort of like, oh yeah, Darren is going off to work on his Scientology church, and whatever.
So the band break up after that?
So they broke up for a little while, and then they replaced the drummer. They're out now on their third permutation with a third drummer. And they're really psyched. They're like been touring, of course, the quarantine, blah blah. But but anyway, so it's like getting back to the whole point is that I want to geek out with him, and I it's just like, oh, I want you to be my friend, dude. At the same time, it's like there's this risk of like, I don't know, maybe it'll kind of piss him off if I'm like, dude, take me back, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, whenever that was. What the hell happened? And like, how do you feel about it? And I'm afraid that he's going to like shut down, or he might just be like, I don't know, dude, I don't want to talk about this. And now it's like a weird vibe,
I would hope that he'd be open-minded about it, because it's so long ago, at least, then hopefully it's not going to like pinch some nerve, but I mean, you got to ask him, bro. You have to.
Yeah.
No, what you should do is like, you should wait like a good like 10, 15, like wait like half an hour into it and like get a good feel for it,
Right.
And if he's open about it, then drop it, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Drop it.
Like,
right
what happened a decade ago?
Yeah. Right when I say something like really funny and he laughs, I'm like, whatever happened to Darren? And he's just like, what?
Well, I mean, you're obviously a fan, like, the history of the band. So, I mean, he's got to know that, you know what I mean? Like you would hope, if you were him, you would hope you knew the history, you know what I mean? Or else he's coming into a podcast with a guy who doesn't fucking know anything, like know what he's been through, you know what I mean? So I'm sure he's at least expecting it a little bit, but
could be. Yeah, that would be weird if I had, sort of like a Borat character. I was like, you play music, and it's just like, yeah, yes.
I have kind of a story semi like that. This will be the last story before we get off.
Sure.
I used to skateboard a lot. Like, skateboarding was like everything to me when I was like middle school and high school. And I used to go to these like skateboard camps. They're real big. It's called Woodward in Pennsylvania. And I would go from North Carolina for the summer. It was always a big deal. And there's a place where pros would come and skate. You got to see
where in Pennsylvania was it?
No idea.
Okay.
It was in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
I know that. You should be able to Google Woodward. It's a big skate camp. There's only 3 in like the country. There's one in California, one in the middle of mountains like Montana somewhere, and then one in Pennsylvania. So I did that for 3 years. I think like in middle school, like 7th grade, 8th grade, and maybe 9th grade. And it was the only time I got to see like skateboard professionals and like meet them, and like those were my heroes, you know. Growing up, like I was just obsessed with skateboarding. So the skateboard fad kind of came and went. And a couple of years ago, I'd say like 3 years ago, the biggest skateboard website right now, it's called the Barracks. I don't know if you're into skateboarding or you know about this, but if
I'm not yet.
Any listener knows anything about skateboarding, the barracks.com is like, they have everything. They a bunch of pros come and skate, and it's based in LA, the big skate park, a bunch of pros skate it, and blah, blah, blah. So one of the owners of the Barracks is named Steve Barra, who was a professional skateboarder when I was growing up. I used to watch, and he was like, he's one of my heroes, kind of how you were saying.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I'm on a flight. I'm flying from Phoenix to North Carolina for Christmas. And I'm on a connecting flight from Phoenix to Chicago, and then Chicago down to North Carolina. And I sit down in my seat, and I look up. This is when I'm getting onto the plane in Phoenix, and I see Steve Barra walk by on the plane. And I was like, was that fucking Steve Barra? You know what I mean? Yeah. And like this is kind of like how I view this is the decade ago's hero. You know what I mean? Like I'm into the skateboarding world, and I follow it on Instagram, and I check the Barracks, for some cool videos on my computer every once in a while, but I don't skate anymore or anything like that. And I saw him walk by me, and I was like, holy shit, that's like fucking Steve Barra. He's one of the owners of the Barracks and like one of my childhood heroes.
Right.
And I was thinking the whole flight, I was like, when I get off this flight, should I wait for him, and just like shake his hand? And I did. And I wouldn't usually do that because I don't like bothering people who usually get bothered. But Steve, no one knows who Steve Barra is unless you're in the industry. Like maybe he's really cool about it. You don't know.
Right.
So I get off the plane, and I'm waiting there as all the people are getting off the plane because I was towards the front. And Steve Barra gets out, and I go up to him and I shake his hand. I'm like, hey man, I just want to say I'm a big fan. I don't skateboard anymore, but I used to, and you had like a big impact on my life. This guy was the nicest guy. He was getting off in Chicago. That's where his like girlfriend's or his either his girlfriend or his wife's family was. That's who he was going to see for Christmas. He walked with me from getting off that plane to my connecting flight to go to Charlotte. He went, like we were walking. I was like, I'm going this way. And he was like, I'm going that way, but I'll come with you. I'll finish the story. Like he like kept walking with me. Like we walked and talked the whole way to my next gate.
Yeah.
And he was like the nicest guy ever. And it was like one of those moments where, you want to believe when you're growing up, like your heroes are these like great people. And it was one of those times where he knocked out of the park, and that had like a huge impact on me. And I'd love to like meet him again and be like, hey man, when I met you in that air that was just great. I don't know. It was just like a really, really awesome experience. And when anyone asks me if I have like a celebrity experience, that's the one I tell them, even though he's not like a big celebrity. It just had a really big impact on me. I was just awesome.
Yeah. It's funny how that works, man. Like, yeah, not everybody who's, sort of like the most famous is occupies that like space in your head. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's people that are just, known a little bit. And yeah, for you, that guy was like about as good as it gets, I guess, for at least some portion of your life.
Yeah, as good as it gets, man. It was awesome.
And you know what, dude? Like, it's funny because you don't know what that guy was dealing with in his life at that moment. Like maybe it was the type of thing where you were exactly what he needed. Maybe he was going through some bullshit, or he just had a raging, fight with his wife or something, or whatever. And he's walking in the airport, and all of a sudden this kid is like, dude,
nice kid.
I love you. And he's like, all right, like I'll give you 15 minutes. Like, let's go.
100%. And you don't think of it like that, like in the moment. I don't know. That's just awesome just to think about. I'm just glad I was there for that. I've met celebrities and stuff that maybe weren't so nice, I haven't had anyone that was like an asshole or anything, but there's been some guys that have just kind of given me the cold shoulder or whatever, and I've been like, I wish that went better.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because I really liked that guy before this meeting.
Oh, yeah, that sucks.
I can name drop somebody if you want, but it's
Hey.
bad. I don't want to ruin it for anyone else.
Hey, it's your I don't think I'm the guy that gets in trouble for that. Maybe, I don't know.
No, I mean, I don't know if you know Childish Gambino.
Yeah, of course.
He's a rapper.
Yeah.
And I was a huge fan of his. And he did the show Community. I love the show Community. He played a character on there. And he could have been having a real bad day. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not going to make excuses for anyone. Maybe he is, not the nicest person. I don't know. But it's not like he wasn't even mean to me. He wasn't even mean. He just kind of blew me off a little bit. I ran into him on a Santa Monica Pier. I just saw him. He was there by himself, sitting on this bench. And it was like really late at night. I was out there like taking pictures, just walking around with my buddies. And I was walking around. I was like, holy shit, that's Childish Gambino sitting down on that freaking bench.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like ruffling or something in his book bag. And I like went over to him and was like, hey man, big fan. And he kind of looked up, gave me a head knock and went right back into his, and I was like standing right next to him, like kind of like out with my hand.
Oh, he dissed the handshake?
Yeah, he kind of like looked up at me and like kind of went like this and went right back to his bag and didn't say a word. And I kind of retracted my hand and just like, big fan, man, and I just kept walking, And hey, look, he wasn't even that mean. He didn't say anything.
Yeah, he didn't try, but
he didn't. And it was just one of those moments where I walked away afterwards. I was like, darn, I really like him, and I wish that went differently.
Yeah.
But whatever. He could have had a bad day.
That's true. You wonder how many of those like
doing there,
Well, it's funny because like for any sort of non-famous person, like you wonder like what would my reaction be if I was inundated with like 10,000 people that were like oh, can I shake your hand or whatever. It's like 100%. out of 10,000, I guarantee you that your ratio of being a nice guy isn't going to be 100%. Like there's just not
easily. Yeah. And I don't take it to heart. I still am a big fan of his. So like, he's still awesome. This is one of those moments where I was like, darn, I wish he was cool as shit.
I wonder what would have happened if you just stood there and you're like, I'm not fucking leaving until you shake my hand. Like seriously, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, dude. Well, let's link up, man. Have me back on. I want to come back after Matt and Shane Blown.
Dude, I would love to have you. Colby Brown. He's another guy coming on. You know Colby Brown?
Why does that sound familiar?
He's not like a video guy. He's like but he's up there for sure. He does a lot of like big brand
like a photographer?
Commercial stuff, does a lot of travel, a lot of wildlife.
Colby Brown. That sounds. What's his handle?
I think it's maybe Colby Brown Photography.
Okay, then I don't know who that is.
You just
I'll do my research though.
Yeah, he's right up there. He does a lot of cool shit too. And yeah, like some other people that are like, it would be so ridiculous that I'm not even gonna say because it's not confirmed yet. But like people where I'm like, I'm almost like they're gonna find out I'm a fraud. They're not gonna come on, like, So
I want to know, dude.
Yeah, I'm not even because it's like one of these. I don't even want to jinx it,
Yeah, don't jinx it.
So, but yeah, once again, man, you've been awesome, dude. One of my favorite ones so far.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So
I love to talk.
So, for sure.
We'll stay close. All right, dude.
All right, man.
Enjoy. Yeah, you too.